And we're back with another episode of On the Record with Tiffany here on 9:30 a.m. The Answer.
And Kevin, don't forget that part.
With Tiffany and Kevin. And we can be seen on TAN TV, the African American Network Television, where we have a local feel with a global reach. Oh. So.
I'm laughing because we've been teasing each other back and forth, right? So, as you know, one of the things that, we've been going over these last 3 episodes, right? So the first one, you heard a little bit about Tiffany. The second one, you heard a little bit about me. And so I hope I came across as brilliant as Tiffany. I doubt it, though, but we'll go with that.
Nope, I was better.
But the third one, right, is sort of a wrap up in this whole idea, because Dynamic Life Press is coming out with a series that is a historical series that is really wrapped around the idea that if, by the time you're the second great whatever, you're the second great uncle, great aunt, great grandparent or whatever, most of the people who know you are dead, right, or about to die, and you're going to be forgotten. I know it's a sad fact of life, but that's generally where it is, right? And so that's the viewpoint we're coming from. So if your second great grandchild was to come to you and ask questions, what are the things that you'd want them to know, right? And that stood out in your life that you'd want them to be aware of, right? A little sentimentality there, but that's the idea behind these this series of 3 that we've done. And so we're going to ask each other a few of these questions, right? So I have the questions, and so I have a series that's coming up. It's going to be a podcast around, it's going to more or less center around the people that I know and that I would want my grandchildren or grand whatever to know about the people that I knew in my life. And I have this series of women that I have written down that I'm going to be conducting for the first wave, and then it'll be different family members, okay?
He's just pumping up my head so he can plug his podcast. That's what he's doing.
Yes, I am. So she's known me for a while. All right, Tiffany. So here it's going to be like, what's your favorite food?
That's what you came up with?
That's what I came up with. What's your favorite food? Tell me, I want to know.
Well,
you need to get closer to
cannelloni.
Cannelloni, what's that?
Cannelloni. It's an Italian dish with chicken, ricotta. That's the one that I like. All right. Spinach.
All right. So where'd you first get this food? Since this is the one thing you want someone to remember back in time.
Like the food? The first place I had it was this little pizzeria.
What's a pizzeria?
A pizza place.
Okay.
Near my school when I was in high school. No, you know what? The first place I had it was at a hotel. We had gone to Italy. I was viewing schools there, and we just went to the hotel.
And this is what year?
This was 1987.
Oh, okay. All right, so 1987, you're in Italy, and this is where you get this cannelloni.
Cannelloni. It's not cannelloni. See? Well, you're trying to mess with me now.
All right, so we know that cannelloni was your favorite food there.
It's still one of my favorites.
It is, right? So that explains why we always, you want to try that, and you want me to try it. I'm like, I don't want to try it. I want
every time, he's always like, no. It's not that great to me, but I like very authentic cannelloni, and there are some places that have it, and it's good.
Anyway, with food, I like when I go to somewhere, I like what I like, and I don't want to try anything new because I like what I like.
Yes.
That's what it is there. All right, so that's your favorite. What is your favorite dish to cook?
Favorite dish to cook? Shrimp etouffee.
Shrimp etouffee. Why?
Because my entire family loves it.
All right, yeah.
Everybody loves it when I make it. Friends, family, whomever, they all love the shrimp etouffee when I make it.
So I asked that question because just as a kid, specifically Tiffany's grandmother, her name, we called her Ma. Her name is Victoria Applin, and she was a pistol, right? 100%, right? And I just remember talking to her about.
Everybody says I'm just like her.
Yes, the weak need not apply on this one here, right? But I asked that question because I just remember listening to Ma, and one of her favorite, I forget, she was telling me about a dish that she cooked. And the reason that dish was important to her was because that was one of the first meals that her mother sat down with her and showed her how to cook. And she still learns how to cook that. And she had a cake that she did, but there was like something that dealt with shrimp etouffee and probably crawfish, because it stands out in my head.
We did a lot of, our family is from Louisiana, from southern Louisiana. And so there's a lot of Cajun and Creole cooking that's all that I learned to cook initially. I can cook lots of other things now, but those are all my staples. And so learning how to make a roux and learning how to
that's
do
a gravy
the basics.
For you people like me in West Texas. When I heard roux, I was like,
you didn't know what
what's
it was?
A roux? And you see them make it like, oh, this is the gravy. And they get offended.
I get offended when you guys want to come over and talk about flavor and food, and y'all don't know what a roux is and don't know what the trifecta are. Anyway, okay.
All right, so so food is a big thing, right, with us. And I just remember Ma, and I do know, like with your dad, that's a big thing that we do is food, and especially crawfish. Crawfish grow on you after a while, because anything.
Crawfish are amazing.
Yes, so crawfish does grow on you, but that's a whole process right there, and that's a big family tradition that we have. I know that Tiffany's family has, right? So is this whole southern Louisiana thing, and it's not just her particular family, but the food itself is very common in the Beaumont, Southeast Texas community. Everybody, my favorite dish is gumbo, because everyone has their own dish of gumbo, and they claim theirs is better than everybody else's, right?
Well, everybody's gumbo is a little bit different, And yeah, you like your people's gumbo more than you like somebody else's gumbo. We all try other people's gumbo, but we all love our own gumbo.
So that's all right. So we know you like gumbo. All right, I'm gonna switch it up on you.
No,
right?
I said shrimp etouffee. I like gumbo too.
Yeah.
I make a mean gumbo as well.
Yeah, Tiffany has a cousin who's allergic to shellfish, and I don't know how this man has made it out of Southeast Texas alive, but they make an extra gumbo for him.
We make
just and set it to the side for Danny, and they literally guard it like Fort Knox.
Yeah, nothing can touch it.
Yeah, I remember I was like, hey, who's gumbo? And they were like,
he's very.
He's acutely allergic. And they guard it. And I remember going over there, I was like, whose gumbo is this? That's Danny's. Don't touch it.
Do not touch that pot of gumbo.
Yeah. So that's a big thing there. So, all right. So a good thing there. All right. I'm going to switch it up on you a little bit, babe. All right. Who is your favorite historical figure?
My favorite historical figure. Gosh, it's a toss-up for me between Ida and Martin Luther King.
We'll toss it. Let's go with both of them. Okay, so Ida. Who is Ida?
Ida B. Wells.
Ida B. Wells. What's important about Ida B. Wells, since that's your favorite historical person?
Well, she was out there promoting women's rights when African American women didn't have rights, and white women didn't have rights.
Mm-hmm.
And she was independent. That just was unheard of at that time period, to see a woman, an African American woman, demanding to be at the front of women's suffrage.
Yeah, that is interesting, because Ida B. For those of you who don't know Ida B. Wells, Google it. All right, please go Google it. So Ida B. Wells is an American leader, right, in the late 1800s. So she was there, and she was one of the first people to take on and challenge the terroristic acts of lynching. And because of Ida B. Wells and many others, they were able to change the lynching laws, right? And so that people could be there was a whole process there. One of my favorite stories about Ida B. is that they were marching on Washington for women's suffrage. So here we are. We have a group of people trying to get the right to vote. And then they're telling
the black women.
They're telling the black women to get at the back of the line. Well, Ida B. says no.
Ida B. was like, nope.
And so what she did was she not cut the line, but she positioned her group of people who were marching to where they marched right in front of, went right in right before the group of white women were supposed to go in line. And so she did that. And she was also a very good writer.
It was the biggest scandal of the day.
Yep.
When she did that.
She cut in front of the likes of Susan B. Anthony.
That's right. And they were reaching out to her because she was the one who was the bad butt in the group. She was the one that was like, we're going to have this one way or another.
Yeah, so if you go to our house, we have several books about written about Ida B. Wells on the library there, and this is
play in our library.
Yeah, and so this is so I'm a bit of a geek, so we're history geeks, right? So one of the things that I've been reading and on go to the Library of Congress, right? Look this guy. You can Google this guy too. His name is Thomas T. Fortune. Right, and so Tiffany always gets upset when I bring up Thomas T. Fortune because it appears from the original writing that Thomas T. Fortune and Ida B. had a thing going on, right?
Lord, why do you have to besmirch historical names with your mess? Why you always got to have some piece of gossip?
So because it's very funny. So Ida B. Wells, right, Hellraiser, civil rights activist, right, someone who's stern, was getting going.
She was a heaven raiser.
All right. So Ida B. Wells, right? So there in that same line, what was an act of kindness that someone showed you that they didn't have to show you that impacted your life?
An act of kindness. When I was at MaryMount, I was coming from Southeast Texas. You know, as you say, project adjacent, 7 streets over from the projects. Hop on a plane, and I'm in an elite boarding school in Italy. But I'm there with all of the baggage that comes from being where I was from and all of the things that I'd experienced as a kid. And so we had open classrooms. You had so many classes scheduled during the day, and then open hours where you could just go and study in a different classroom or in the library or go back to your room. And
this
study.
is high school, right?
This is high school. And so Huda, one of the girls in my class, there were 26 of us in my class, 26 girls. And Huda said, "We want to talk to you." And so a group of girls got together with me and said, "Hey, we know you come from the South, but you haven't been answering questions, and you hadn't been really talking to any of us, and we feel like it's because you think we might be racist, and you're guarded around all of us." And I was like, "What?" And they were like, some of the stuff that you say, you've been impacted by all of these other social issues down in Texas. And it made me wake up to how I was behaving and what I thought about myself. Like, wait a minute, all of the things that people have said to me that I've internalized, I haven't dealt with.
Yeah, because
it's not somebody else. If somebody calls you out of your name, how you internalize it and walk through life with it, that's you. You've got to take it out and examine it and toss it in the trash if it's not something that should be in your life and in your heart. And I didn't realize how impacted I had been by many of the things that the knuckle draggers in society had said to me. And so when they did that and just started talking to me about it, it was a change for me. I began to examine what the ticker tape that was running in my head was saying.
Oh, never told me that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That was new. I'm glad I asked that question. All right.
Well, you're finding out new things every day, Mr. Smith.
All right. So the last question, I hope I get it before the time's up here. What's the most influential non-family member?
Most influential non-family member? Now or?
Whatever. Answer the question.
Okay. I would say the most influential non-family member in terms of how I think and how I operate would be Henry Cisneros. He's very influential in how I think and operate.
Why? Tell me more.
Because, he has this way of uniting people, even groups of people that you think they are not going to work together. He just manages to say the right thing and do the right thing. So when I'm dealing with very difficult situations, then I will do one of two things. I'll either call Mary Alice and ask a question like, hey, how would you handle this? Or I'll just think about and look at historically how he's handled certain things. Like he's been a very influential, he and Mary Alice have been very influential non-family members.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good to know. All right, that explains a lot.
Especially with their commitment to public health, commitment to living in their community, and living smaller than they have to in order to do big things. That stuff. Like when you're thinking about the value that your life can add to your community. That I think about them. How do you handle that? And I ask them questions. That's to people that for me are non-family, but as influential as family.
All right, I like that. So, and I'll say I am I have to give you this background so this next comment is going to make sense. I would normally just say it because Tiffany would get the background, right? So I am a huge comic book geek. I mean, I just love comic books, right? And so
our house is a testament to it. We have
Yes.
stacks of these things.
they're nicely, neatly, and they're neat and they're organized. But I'm a huge
Yes.
fan, right? And I'm also a huge military fan guy. And just the concept, right? And so Tiffany always gives me grief about that, right? And but one thing, I'm a big fan of Batman, and the biggest thing about Batman that I like is that he, along with Iron Man, yeah, she's recently become a fan of Batman, is that they're the only superheroes who don't have superpowers. None. I mean, Batman has absolutely no superpowers, neither does Iron Man. But what they have are resources and creativity, and they solve problems and take on people. And that's one of the things that I told my wife. I said, you remind me of two things, right? She was like, what? But she was giving me grief. So you remind me of Batman. And
His
she goes,
description is always that I'm giving it. Always has
well,
to
it is,
throw
right?
it in there.
So when you come in and go, what are you doing? What does it look like I'm doing? I'm reading a comic book. Go away. So, and I was telling her this analogy about Batman, right? And then the other one is I like military shows, right? In particular, a particular group of military guys are the Green Berets, right? They are a fascinating group because they send these usually 12 people in to go in and train the local people on how to take on a particular situation. And then with the support of the U.S. government and the military, they're able to bring things, make changes happen. And that's the analogy that I use with my wife, is that one of the things that she's doing, especially in regards to the Texas Kidney Foundation, is that she is going around like Batman, raising key people in these initiatives to say, hey, we can work to cause people to think differently, to act differently, and change different policies. And so where she is this ordinary human being, no superpowers, right? She has creativity and people skills like you wouldn't believe to gather this strong group of people together to take on a social issue that is impacting many.
I see our board members and our community partners as our SEAL team. You know, we have these people that have stellar backgrounds and just incredible intellectual capacity to see a problem from a different perspective. Like, we've dealt with kidney disease for decades in the very same manner. Not much has changed. But now, for just such a time as this, we have the opportunity to change behavior, change attitude, and change the health of the people in our community. We can offer them something more than just the same old, same old. And that, you know, there's something amazing about being able to do that. There's something amazing about having somebody like Carl Dukes that is out there doing his best work. You know, I just talked to somebody, calling people randomly. I was calling someone about a sponsorship. Mm-hmm. And I get this lady on the phone, and she says, "Oh, I will buy tickets. I will sponsor Texas Kidney Foundation." And I said, "Why? You know, why are you?" You know, she was so excited about it, and I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because Carl Dukes, I was going into stage 4 kidney disease. Carl Dukes, I went to see him, and he saw that that's what was happening, and he said, I'm gonna test everything to see what this is, because I don't want you to have to go on dialysis." So first of all, that right there is different from most people, right? He looked at everything, figured out that it was something to do with the ACE inhibitor that she was taking. That's according to her. I didn't call Carl and ask him. And changed that, and literally saved her kidneys. Literally saved her kidney health, saved her quality of life. It's people who are thinking. Having a physician is not the same as having the best of the best physician. That's what Carl is.
Dr. Dukes, don't let that go to your head. All right. So
now Kevin is saying that because Dr. Dukes is the Billy D of nephrology. He's like one of the handsomest doctors out there. That's what that's what it is.
All right.
It's called jealousy.
I have some stuff in my head right now that I'm going to keep to myself. So all of this to say, all these things, right, I think everyone should, that seem ordinary to you, right? You go through it, it's just events in your life. They will mean the world to another generation to know these things, and that. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we're using the show for is I'm going to download all this stuff, and I have a repository where I keep this information and these recordings. So that is things that I just now, a few things I found out that I didn't know about my wife that I like. And everyone, all the women just say, "Oh, Dr. Dukes, whatever, Dr. Dukes."
Everybody
whatever.
loves Dr. Dukes. He's a great guy. Anyway, you've been listening to On the Record with Tiffany here on 9:30 a.m. The Answer. And we can be seen on the African American Network Television, where we have a local feel with a global reach.
And on YouTube.
And on YouTube and wherever podcasts are streamed. Okay, in this segment, I get to ask questions of Kevin L. Smith. So, I'm going to ask you the same thing you asked me.
Okay.
What's your favorite food?
My favorite food. All right, I would not admit to this to anyone, especially to your dad, but I like fried chicken. I'm a big fried chicken fan.
Really?
That's one of the things
Is that why you always eat oven fried chicken when I make it?
I eat oven fried chicken because I'm older, and
I make it oven fried.
It's healthier on my heart, hopefully healthier on my waistline. So, but I do like fried chicken. I know it fits a stereotype, but I love fried chicken.
What's the food that you hate the most?
The food that I hate the most?
That you don't like?
I don't like here now. Never mind. I can't say. I was going to say. I would say the food that I.
What you were going to say? A certain chain that my daughters like to go to every day.
Once or twice is okay, but every day.
But no, like
I would say a food that I really don't like that much is. I don't know. I hadn't met any food that I don't like. Look at me, right? I mean,
Be quiet.
I got weight everywhere, right? So I would say a food that I'll tell you what I don't like. I don't like certain cookies. I don't like and I know old people are going to be upset about this. I don't like tea cookies. And that's just,
really?
I don't like
those tea cakes?
I don't like tea cakes. I don't like them. I don't know. I don't care who.
I didn't know that about
tea cakes are a
put
cookie.
You out on the street for that.
In my mind, it's a sugar cookie, but they say it's not a sugar cookie.
It's not. It
Whatever.
doesn't have sugar all over it.
I don't like that cookie. Everybody makes it. Tiffany makes it during the holidays. Her aunts make it during the holidays. My mama tries to make it.
Well,
I don't like them.
I mean, it's something that people make. It's not terribly sweet, so no, because he likes things that are really sweet.
I do not. Okay, I do got the sugar tooth. All right.
Yeah, you do.
I have the sugar tooth.
Yeah,
sorry,
you do
no
have
guts. All right. So what's the next one?
Who's your favorite historical figure?
Historical figure. Okay, I have two, and one's going to be controversial. So let's deal with the easy one first. My favorite historical figure is Frederick Douglass. That's just his life, going from being a slave and having being freed, not being free like someone freed him. He freed himself, right? And to go through the psychological bondage that he had to endure, and still having the capacity to be free and not bitter in regards to that. So Frederick Douglass is my favorite historical figure. And then just the impact that he had on the people around him in the free community up north, that was really good.
So give some background on Frederick Douglass. Most people that are listening to us are not going to know who that is.
Yeah, so Frederick Douglass is African-American leader. He was born into slavery, born to his mother was a slave, his father was a white man, and so he was born into slavery at that time in the early 1800s. And from there, being born into slavery, right, he learned to read, and kind of follows that same the power of learning and the power of reading and thinking, right. And so he learned to read. He was very, I'm gonna use the word rebellious because I can't think of another word. He didn't accept slavery. He didn't accept, so he was that first, he was a bad Negro, right? That's what they would describe him as a bad Negro, and you can fill in the rest for that, right? And he stood up. When his master would want to beat him for resisting work, he stood up, he would resist it. And he took on the mindset of, if they're going to beat me, I'm going to resist and make it extremely difficult for them to get away with this. It's not going to go unchecked, right? And so he even was sent to a place where they trained Negro slaves to be better, right? And he resisted that. But it was a lot of psychological torture that he endured. And so he, even in the midst of that, he still stood firm for himself. And even when he left and escaped, it wasn't like it's romanticized in movies and everything. When you left as a slave, when you went north, it wasn't guaranteed, right? So most people ended up in Boston. And even then, they had people there who were looking for Negro slaves to return them. And if you got returned, I mean, they beat the crap out of you. But even in the midst of that, he was self-educated. One of my favorite speeches he gave is Self-Made Man, right? It's an awesome speech. You should look that up. Google that.
It's worth listening to because really, when you think about that, think about how someone walked out of that period of time and then made a life and political change, then you should know that in this period of time,
But he still believed. But he still believed in the Constitution. He still believed in the ideals of America.
Still believed
even in the midst of
this
that.
nation.
So here, and even so, you'll see in a lot of his writings, rather, and he owned the newspaper, the equivalent of an internet, right? So he still believed in the ideals of America.
Yeah.
When a lot of the people around him were like, "Hey, let's burn the Constitution down," he was like, "No, the document itself is a good document.
Yeah.
The ideals that it embodies are
Exactly.
good." Because you also have to realize is that he understood the context in which he was in, which was, if you compare America to where he was in time, right, compared to everything that was before him, the ideals that they put forth in the document itself were good. The ideals were good, that all men are created equal. And so really all he was asking for was the equal
application of the document.
Yeah.
Application of these values.
to everyone.
To everyone. Fair application. The same thing that people are saying right now.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Same thing.
And so
Still the same
I
thing.
use a metaphorical connection, right? So just like you had Douglas, who was saying the ideals of the Constitution are great, we want to keep them. And then he had a couple of friends, and I'm not even going to attempt to remember all their names, who were there. They're like, "No, let's burn it down. Let's take it away." He's like, "No, we just want the application to be fair,
We just want the application
to be applied
to
to
us.
all men,
Yeah,
right?
to
and
apply
that
to us as
men
well.
be defined as men, everyone, right? In that sense. So just like today, we have people who are like, "Let's get rid of America. It's got no. Hold your roll, slow your roll, right?"
That's right.
So,
Pump your brakes, kids.
Pump your brakes on that one, right? So now you're telling me that now I get to participate in capitalism unrestrained, right? And I know some people say it's got issues. Yeah, we can work through that through legislation.
Every nation
But it's a good
has
system.
issues.
But it's a good system. And the issues,
That's
from
right.
my viewpoint, that people are complaining about are minor.
That's
right. Or minor when you take it in the full context of everything. So, and those of you who want to call in, please do so and argue with me based on fact, and you will not win. I guarantee you. Okay. So that's the first person I like. Right. So it's Frederick Douglass. So let me. And so
Throwing down the gauntlet.
And so the second person, though, and this is the controversial one, is that I like is Ronald Reagan. And I have a big picture of Ronald Reagan. And I know people get upset and they talk about
He's a big
the
picture in
war
his
on
office.
drugs and everything. And we can debate that nuance, right? But you've got to realize when Ronald Reagan came in, America was at a low point. And I tell this story, right? I remember my father was working, and I think we were out of jobs. He was in transition, right, into trying to get a stable job. And it was under Jimmy Carter. And he had some colorful things to say about Carter, but I'll leave that alone. But under Reagan, it came in, and from my dad's viewpoint, is that it was Reagan who changed the economic situation, right, for him, and he had employment, et cetera, from that viewpoint. But when you also step back from Reagan challenged a view of the world that was dominant, right, which was the best way to deal with the Soviet Union was that of appeasement. And I'm not a big appeasement guy at all, not in anything, just not the neighborhood I grew up in. But he did something that people thought was crazy, and it appealed to me, right? And he just said, the Soviet Empire is evil. And oh my God, I mean, it just threw everybody a curveball. Like, oh my God, he's just inciting them, and he decided that we're going to take them on.
Because we never
at
heard
every
a
point.
politician
Yeah,
speak
no one ever said
directly
that.
to someone, speak directly and forthrightly about someone that was our opposition. There was always the diplomacy and I guess Melba-Toast language.
Yeah, there was a lot of Melba-Toast language that was used. But when he stood and he called it the evil empire, when he had this sense,
and it was just like,
he had this sense of, for lack of a better word, moral clarity.
Yeah.
And we didn't see that prior. Everyone was like, well, I think, blah. So that influenced me a lot. Those two men, Frederick Douglass and Ronald Reagan, because they had this sense of what was right and what was wrong. And they went through that, and that's what they stuck with. Now, everybody has issues, right? And we can debate those. But in my mind, those two individuals are my favorite two historical figures.
Interessante.
Yeah, which is why I have books on both.
Yes, you do.
And probably a runner-up would be Grant. Yeah. General Grant from Ulysses S. Grant would be the third one.
Interesting. So what's your act of kindness that someone did that they didn't have to do for you?
Act of kindness. Last week, I know I shared with Kathy Spencer. That was an act of kindness because I moved, and I'll tell you, I didn't go into detail with this, but we had moved from my small hometown, Rotan, to an even smaller place called Roby. So there's about 10 miles between the two of us. There's a lot of
Rotan's pretty small.
Yeah, and there's a lot of rivalry between them sports-wise, right? But what Kathy did for me was open my eyes to the actual process of how to get into college. And I met her in the 5th grade. Yeah, it was the 5th grade. And she, in essence, took me by the hand from the 5th grade through my senior year and walked me through all of the things that I needed on a college transcript and on a college application, a college application and a scholarship application. She walked me through everything that I would need to add and have on those applications. And she walked me through that. She got me involved in 4-H. She got me involved in like all these different activities. And she didn't have to do that. Right, and she did that, and that was an act of kindness that I think I would love to believe the myth that, I would have been successful without that. I don't think I would have. Just looking back over the things that that opened me up to, her taking me by the hand, saying, "Hey, Kevin, you need to do this." So I know whenever Kathy called, it was always an answer, right? And that was an act of kindness that she didn't have to do for me, but she did. Right, and even through the ups and downs, she guided me through that whole process of, hey, you need to do this. Hey, you need to do this. They're going to be looking for this. They're going to be looking for that. So whatever she said do, I did. Right, I didn't challenge it. If Kathy said do it, we did it. Right, and then if we didn't do it, my dad had lovely things to say about me in that. So, but yeah, that would be an act of kindness. It didn't have to be.
So, well, who is the most influential non-family member?
Non-family member directly involved with my life. I would say my whole hometown of Rotan, Texas. Right? So
'cause they really like Rotan. Just that's one of those places. This is a hometown story.
It is, right? So I'm a big rap music fan. I know sometimes it sounds like a contradiction. I like Ronald Reagan and I like rap music and deal with it, right?
Well, people are nuanced.
So I'm a big rap fan, and there's a rapper named Young Dolph, and he has a song, and there's a line in there. He says, "These streets are what raised me." Right, and that's that one line that's there. You know, in rap music, everybody has that one line that stands out to them, and I can listen to that whole line over and over again, right? Because it was my hometown that had this influence on me that is the person that I am today, right? And so, and the other day I was talking to Ernie. I think it was Annie. Yeah, so Annie and I were talking, and when you have kids, I have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old, they ask you questions that you hadn't really thought about most times, right? So she was asking me, she found my yearbook. It's my senior yearbook, and she was asking me all these questions about my hometown, and the nuance of that. Not nuance. What's the word I'm looking for? Nostalgia. Nostalgia of that is that the feeling that I think when I think of my hometown was the friends that I made, high school sports, right? I tell this story often about my second brother Eric. He played. It had to be like 92. Yeah, 92. So he played for Rotan, Texas, right? Look it up. It's a small town, about 10,000 people, right? And they played this. They were at that time. They were a 1A football team. They played another 1A football team named Garden City, and these are super small towns. They played in Garden City. Garden City probably at that time had about 900 people. Garden City had to request additional support for their infrastructure because they went from 900 to about 6,000 people because you had the number 1 and the number 2 Class A football team playing. And just that excitement, even as I tell that, it makes me feel, goosebumps, right, on that one. And just the feeling of that from a hometown feel, and just the feeling of being in a small town environment where you know everybody, right? You know this person, you just know the people in that small town. And that's the one thing that when you say the most influential non-family member, it would be my hometown. It would be the church that I was raised in, right? Little Zion Baptist Church, the pastor there at the time, Carrington, Reverend James Carrington and his wife, and just that whole environment of being around those people, and then all those older people having the influence.
When Kevin and I got married, the whole town.
Oh, she's gonna tell this story, right?
Shut down.
It felt like it, but the whole town didn't shut down.
They all came to our engagement party. Everybody came to the engagement party that was held there.
Yeah,
the whole town did.
There's a lot of people came down. It's more than 100
not that big
people.
of a town.
It's more than 100 people live in row 10, Tiffany.
All right. But everybody came.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time.
It was really good. It was really good because I'd never experienced small town America. So this was it was a great experience. I thought, wow, this really is where everybody knows everybody else.
Yep, it really is. I mean, it was a great experience, and that's the one thing that I miss for my kids, is to be in that small town environment where people know everyone. You know, that's the one thing that I miss. You didn't know that, did you?
No, I did not. I did not. I thought, considering your usual warmth, because Kevin's always the person that's skeptical about anything or anybody that's coming our way. So, you know, the girls are always like, watch out for the bad guys. Bad guys could be here, there. They're always telling me, like, look at all the points of entry. I'm like, okay. You know, so I was surprised to hear that you miss small town America.
I do miss small town America. I do.
Well, we can go visit.
Yeah.
What's your most memorable high school moment?
For me, athletics. That's the most memorable. Just athletics in general. Playing football in West Texas was a good experience, right? So being on a winning team, right? Even it's just, there's nothing like it. I mean, one of the books I read in college.
He's perking up, y'all.
I am perking up, right? Was
up.
Friday Night Lights, right? And so I knew most of those guys, right? So most of their kids, in fact, one of the guys who played for the team, his kid did an internship with me. I was like, hey, his name sounds familiar. I said, is your dad so-and-so? He's like, yeah, my dad is this person. And I knew exactly who he was, right? But Texas football, there's nothing like it in the world, especially if you're part of it and you get to play sports. I mean, it is an awesome feeling. You are, in essence, your hometown hero, and just the feeling of it, you're playing, and the lights and family coming out to support you. That first season, you know, and then if you make the playoffs, oh my God, it's a riot. I mean, it is the great. I still remember a lot of those experiences, and I refer to a lot of those right now, right? And the one thing that I remember playing high school sports is we have a coach named Coach Posey, Ted Posey, and he's in his 80s now, right? But I remember him. He coached the linemen, right? And when you come down off the line, we did a play where the tight end, not tight end, the guard and the tackle on the left side pulled down the line. And what that means, Tiffany, is you gotta explain. They come down the line, and what they're doing is it's essentially a fake, right? Where you're letting this guy come in on the right side, but you're going to block him out, and your running back's going to hit that and it's going to go and do pretty well, right? And there was a kid who would not get his tail down, right, to run, because if you stand up, the linebacker's going to step in and smash you in the mouth and block you up. And Coach Posey kept telling this guy to do that, and he wouldn't do it. And so Coach Posey switched out with the linebacker. He doesn't have any pads on whatsoever, and David came down, wouldn't do it, and Coach Posey smashed him. Boom, knocked him down. And that stands out in my head to this day that, hey, there are certain processes and procedures that need to be followed to get the result that you want.
Yeah,
and if you
he'd
don't
probably
do it,
be up on charges in today.
yeah, it probably would be. But we all thought it was cool, man. I was just like, Coach Posey, I mean, after that, Coach Posey was like this god, and man, he was a man's man in my mind.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, the most memorable moments for me in high school were all sports-centered, related, right? And I'm just really thankful for my time to be in there. Even like to this day, I still refer to times in my hometown. I mean, things that I experienced, different personality types. I'm like, this is how I'm going to deal with this person. It's like what we deal there, you know.
Yeah.
So which explains a lot of my kind of get out of my face mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he's definitely a no-nonsense kind of person. You know, you do it. If you say you're going to do something, you say you're going to be someplace, you need to be there. You
Get there. What's
you
wrong
don't
with that?
just, and I operate under that too. You know, standards. You know, all of this, you know, all of these questions just bring me back to standards. You have to have standards.
But
So
that's looked down on though now. If you get standards now, you're racist, right? Mm-hmm. So that's this extreme left.
I will say this. In order to accomplish what Texas Kidney Foundation is endeavoring to accomplish and will accomplish, then we will have the best team. We will have people with standards. Those who do not have standards need not apply. This isn't the place for you. You don't want to show up to meetings on time. This isn't the place for you.
Yeah. So
you don't want to be held accountable and go by metrics. It's not the place for you because when you have a goal, there's only one way to reach goals, and that is with processes and procedures and measurements of the goal.
And a lot of times when you're not aware of what the processes and procedures are, you need someone to help you, right? And I'm okay with that, with someone helping me go through that.
Well, I'll say, you know, as we've been ramping up and getting our team together, we've been very fortunate to find people that understand processes and procedures. You know, when we teamed up with Texas Diabetes Institute, that was one of the first things that we experienced with Terry De La Haya and her team, is that they understood that.
Let me interrupt you real quick. So the reason we're telling this is, one, to capture the essence of who we are, so you know who we are and our background and what we are involved with, so you understand the why of it, that we, you know, that we are people. We just didn't fall out of the sky, but there all these people behind us influenced us, and they have impacts on us. And to be the people we are today, involved with the things that we're involved in. So that's why we are who we are and why we're doing what we're doing. And where that look says we're about to be out of time, right?
Yep. You're listening to On the Record with Tiffany here on 9:30 a.m. The Answer. And we can be seen on the African American Network Television, on YouTube, and wherever podcasts are streamed. Remember, we're more alike than we are different, and you can change the world if you just put together processes and procedures and goals and follow them.